G'day folks, how you going? It's Brad here from the Headshot Guys. Today, and it's been a while, I'm just going to shoot a little bit of a video showing you my editing process. I've more recently been asked a couple of times, not over the top, but a couple of times, have I changed my editing process now that AI is so prevalent? I guess I don't use a lot of AI. I guess the programs that I use, Lightroom and Photoshop, which are my main, I suppose, editing staples, do have some AI processes within their programs. So even if I said I don't want to use AI, I'm not sure how to even turn that off. But when you're establishing coloured backgrounds and those types of things, sometimes lightening and darkening and selecting masks, etc., the programs are automatically using AI to do a better job, I guess. So this is my editing process via capture screen. So let's get into it. Yeah, well, g'day folks, how you going? I'm in Lightroom now, which is my, I suppose my catalogue, for use of a better word. I do some editing in Lightroom. I start in Lightroom, but I always go to Photoshop and then I come back to Lightroom. So you've got two images here. You've got the before, which is on the right-hand side, and you've got the edit, which is on the left-hand side. So I'm going to start with the before. Obviously, this is a process of editing. You can see that I tweak it rather than really go berserk. I like to keep the authenticity. For me, your headshot and this young guy, Zach, he's a wannabe actor. And this is for his acting portfolio, so we want to keep it a little bit authentic. So there's not a lot that I actually need to do to this image. So what we'll do, we'll take you into the develop module of Lightroom. This is it. From there, I would simply click on photo and go edit in Adobe Photoshop. That'll take me through to Photoshop. Here I have a number of actions down the side here. This one here is yours, patch 75. Now I use a patch tool, which I love. So the action sets it up. It gives me a layer, a background and a layer. I then need to select the tool, which is that little, a patch, I guess. And then we zoom in a bit closer and we can see that there's a few little lines here on the neck, which I'll get rid of. The patch tool is really easy to use. Now I've set this up so it's 75% opacity. That's where this is over here. Now just for your information, I do use a Wacom tablet and a pen. I have been for many years. It's Wacom. A little bit disappointed. Recently I upgraded to a new Mini Mac, the 26 version of Mini Mac, and the Wacom tablet that I have had for a number of years. It still works perfectly well. Didn't fit with the new Mini Mac. So I forget what I had to do. I had to rig it so that it did work. I had to download an old driver and thankfully it still works. So basically what we're looking at here is Zach, and the first thing I do is tidy up his skin. So he's got a few pimples here and there. So I just wander in here and we'll patch those out. Now the patch, what it does, you put a circle around the part that you want removed or exchanged, I suppose, and you move it to the part that you want to replace it with. So it's pretty easy. You can actually do it pretty quick once you get into the hang of things, so that his skin looks a little bit better. So basically I would just slowly move around his face. Where you start is entirely up to you, but you've got to make sure that the part that you replace with matches the part that you've taken it from, if that makes sense. So yeah, we just move around, we stomp on any little pimples that he might have, which is, again, not that complicated, but it's worth having a look at. It'll tidy up his skin a fair bit. Pimples I would normally work on. I work on the rule, and I forget where I got this rule, potentially Peter Hurley. My general rule of thumb is that if it's not going to be there in 3 weeks, I'll get rid of it. So most of these I would find that they're pimples. He's a little bit older than a teenager, maybe 19, I think. So he's got a few pimples at this stage. Now, I would always advise young guys and girls, for that matter, that in their teens, if they're getting their actors' headshots done, that they would probably need to update them fairly regularly. So I would imagine that Zach, next time he comes back, which he's had indicated that he would, he will probably have less pimples. So there'll be less work to do here. So as you can see, I'm going around and I'm tidying up his skin a fair bit. And again, not complicated, using a 75% opacity. Sometimes there's bits that you need to do again. But most of the time it's pretty straightforward, can be done reasonably quickly. And that's about it, really. A couple there on his nose, a couple, just a little bit of blotchy, there's a couple of little pimples in there. And that would be about it. Now, I could go through that in a little bit more detail, but that's probably a pretty good example of what I would do for somebody that has pimples. Again, as you've probably seen, any moles, any of those sort of more permanent type marks, I do leave them behind because that's just not what you're looking to do. You're not looking to change his face. You are just looking to remove the things that probably won't be there when he goes for an audition or gets recruited by any modelling agency. Ultimately, he will still look the same. He'll just have less pimples. Okay, so that's probably about it. 75% opacity. As you can see over here, layer. So I'll close down that layer and kind of lock those changes in. So that's pretty good. Now, the next thing I would normally do is look at their eyes. And for most people, 86% of people have one eye bigger than the other. Zach, I think generally his eye, his right eye is a little bit bigger than his left eye. In this particular image, as we move further into the session, he got a handle on how to squint his right eye to match his left eye, which again is not complicated. It's that muscle underneath your eye here. It's the same muscle you use when you wink. So he was able to raise that up and his eyes became pretty even. So I didn't need to touch those. Some people get it, some people don't. So the next thing I would do is go back into my actions, into essentials here, and I would make my way down to the part where it gives me, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Subject and background. No, where is it? I've lost it. Creative. Setup, dodge and burn. Okay, so I'd go into the bottom one here is lighten. So that will automatically take me into a brush. It's set at 20% opacity. It's probably a little bit high, maybe 15% is probably better. And simply make my brush a little bit smaller, and I would just do his eyes. Just the eyeball, actually. Not too much on the white part of his eye, just on the white, on his eye colour. So make sure that that's not too much. You don't have to do a lot. I then would move down to underneath his eye and just lighten underneath his eyes just ever so much. Do both eyes, so that's his left eye. I've done his right eye. Now he's got a little bit of redness in his skin. He tells me, well, he's a surfer, so I know that he'd been out surfing. So he's probably, I think he probably puts sunscreen on his nose and doesn't put so much across his cheeks. So he had a little bit of sunburn across there. It'll probably been a couple of days. Being an ex-surfer myself, I know what that's like. So that's about as much as I would do on his eyes, and you can see the difference it makes there. You can see I hardly touched his face, but I've taken out a little bit of that redness across his face. So I might make the brush a little bit bigger, and I'll just do a little bit of the same situation down his nose and across his forehead. Sometimes I might pop his hair a little bit, but that might be about it. Again, you can see I haven't done a huge amount, and you can see the before and after. So I've just lightened his skin a little bit, taken a little bit of the red out. I'll then move to the burn tool, which again is the same brush, it's just a different layer, and I might do a little bit of work on his eyebrows. I might make that a little bit bigger, just go down the side of his nose, just to give his depth underneath his nose, just a smidgen. Might do his lips just a little bit, just darken them down, and then I'll slide down across his chin, across his cheeks, just on the outline there, just to give him a little bit of depth. Yeah, and you can see that. I don't know if you can even pick that up on the screen, but barely much at all. So, for Zach, that might be about all I'll do at this particular point in time. He's a pretty good looking young dude, so I'm going to close those layers down. And then I would probably have a look at things like his t-shirt. Do I need to take out any wrinkles? Probably not. His hair. Again, I think that's just he's a pretty cool dude. I think he's got a pretty groovy hairstyle. It's a little bit messy, so that's the kind of his style. So that's cool. I don't need to do anything there. That's pretty much it. Now, I do shoot with a very low depth of field. So as you can see in this image, that his eyes are very much in focus, but the shallow depth of field means that his ears and the back of his hair there is quite out of focus. So that again focuses attention on his face towards his eyes, which is where really I want people to look. So that's pretty much it. So I'll close that down, and that should open up for me back into Lightroom. So here he is. That's the edited image back in Lightroom. Now I use my colors down here for, and I use them in the what they call the view modes. And these are the colors, so you can use them when you're selecting images. So normally when I'm selecting images, I'll go through and I'll highlight the images that my client wants. So normally we'll sit that down together, and we would do that at the end of the session. We'll sit down, and now I think Zach, he may have chosen about 12 images, I think, from the 140 odd that we shot. But we'll do that at the end of the session. We'll sit down and we'll go through, and we'll slowly work our way through until we get the best 12 I think he selected in the end that he wanted. So then he simply purchases those 12. So basically I have a session fee, and then my client will choose as many or as few images as he or she will want for their purpose, depending on what it is that they do. So that's Zach in the Lightroom. After it's been into Photoshop, I bring it back into Lightroom. Now there's a couple of things I'll do here. I'll click on the little highlight indicator here, which is up on the top right hand corner in the histogram, and as you can see, the red part of the screen at the back of Zach's head there is white. That means it's pure white. So what I need to do then is to make sure that this patch here, these triangles, these corners where my background lights didn't quite catch, maybe I just had them at the wrong angle, that's not quite white. So I want to make sure that the background is pure white. So what I would do here, again, I have some presets set up, pretty easy, white background, and that will make that white. So then I would go into the mask that's been created, and I make sure that I don't want to make it too white. Now that as a preset is set at a stop and a little bit, so I would take that back down until such time as I see that red starting to disappear. We get all the way back down to there, to 2. So it didn't require much popping of the white. So I think at 15, I'm pretty comfortable that that's pure white on the background. Turn that off. Excellent. I do have a look at the black, and I can punch up the contrast for a little bit of that. But he looks pretty good. I've taken out most of the red out of his cheeks and his little bit on his chin. I don't really think I need to do much else. So that's pretty much it. So he's done and dusted. Then I'll make him green. I would then go back into the before, after. So might just bring a little bit of exposure down, just a tiny bit, just to bring up his tan a little bit. That's it. Before, after, before, yep. So back into library, and you can see there are a number of shots there. So that's the latest. That was the before. You can see before, after, before, after. So there you go. That's my editing process for a guy. Now, as you can see, also I do shoot a lot. The first probably 10, 15 shots are often about getting the light right, getting the skin tones right, getting the background right, etc., etc., etc. So then we move through the session, as we can see here, turning him, coming in close. I look at both sides. He changes his outfit. I do some background shots. Again, editing the background shots is no different. The only difference, generally, the other thing that I can add in sometimes, and I can do it here to show you what it looks like, is that I can change up the background a little bit. So we've got the before, that's the black and white shot. That's probably the before. So if we look at the after, that's after it's been edited. What I can do here is a dark radial. Now what that does, it just, again, puts a bit of a highlight behind my subject. Now if you can see that light part, I can really move that around and put that anywhere, but that just gives a little bit of a highlight. I can make that bigger, I can bring it in, make it smaller. I can put it right behind his head, I can put it at the top of his head, I can put it, we can put it more behind his shoulders rather than his head if we want to. So that is just a bit of a highlight. That's something that we can do. I can, again, make that background very dark, and that will, again, give him a highlight. I don't normally like that flat. We can have that a bit rounder. Normally I'll centre that, just have it above his head just a little bit like so, so that, again, it's highlighting the person, the subject is highlighted, and that's pretty much how it goes. All right, so that's it. That's how I would edit somebody in Lightroom and Photoshop and back into Lightroom again. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this. See you next time.